got a question for you, Bandit. Exactly what is an outsized problem? The finance minister from Ireland said his country has an outsized problem and he needs a bailout.
Hooper, it means that Ireland has a serious financial problem, but Ireland would prefer it if the whole world would just ignore it, just as they tried to do with the horrible financial problems of Greece, Spain, Iceland, and others. You know, the kind of problem just like that dream that everybody has. There you are, standing naked and everybody else has clothes on, and you are trying to hide somewhere, but there is nowhere to hide, so you begin to run, but you run in slow motion, as if your feet are in the mud and people are laughing at you, and you can't get free. Then your dog barks and wakes you up. Kind of like that.
Really? So if I bounce a check and I go to my bank and say, I have an outsized problem, they will give me $130 billion, just as they did for Ireland?
Close. First, they will have to create the money out of thin air. They will push a button, or speed up the printing press, or handwrite an IOU. But it won't be money just lying around that some other country doesn't need. There really isn't that kind of money just lying around. You don't think that these bailouts come from the money somebody actually saved, do you? If you were an Austrian economist, you would know that you can't lend what you have not first earned.
Well, if that is the case, then isn't there more debt in the world than can ever be repaid without printing more money?
Sure.
Really? And isn't there so much debt owed by countries, companies, people, and banks that it is now almost impossible to even pay the interest without printing money? Isn't that the same problem with Ireland, Greece, Iceland, England, and even Japan and the United States?
Sure.
My God. But if every country and central bank just prints more money, and the supply of goods and services stay the same, doesn't that mean that huge waves of inflation are created?
Sure. What else could it mean? Inflation is, and always has been, exclusively a monetary phenomenon. Inflation debases our currency, and currency wars have the same effect as trade tariffs, just like the Smoot-Hawley tariffs did in the 1930s. This is why other countries are not happy with our monetary and fiscal policies. Our dollar is declining in value quickly. We buy less from them, so they export less to us, and their dollar investments are worth less.
But I believe Bernanke when he said that all the printing of money he is doing at the Federal Reserve is supposed to create jobs here in America. He said this will create 700,000 to 1 million new jobs. Do you mean that he is lying or just plain wrong when he keeps Americans ignorant about the profligate spending of our Congress and the near-criminal actions of the Federal Reserve? Do you think he thinks Americans are really that stupid?
Yes, he does think we are that stupid, but he is also afraid that, if we catch on, we won't like it one bit. And that could be a big problem for the Federal Reserve. He is wrong, and he is lying. This new money isn't going into the economy. It is going into the reserves of the banks, and these banks hold their reserves with the Federal Reserve. The banks need this money so that they can buy the treasuries of the U.S. government that no one else seems to want. To prove that demand for treasuries is decreasing compared to the amount of debt available, did you know that when the Fed finishes buying the $600 billion of U.S. treasuries and other debt, that they will be the largest single holder of U.S. treasury debt in the world? This is just plain and simple gross monetization of our federal debt. It is the last tool in the Federal Reserve's bag of tricks and the final indication of a failed monetary policy. This will be like a financial Chernobyl with dollars spreading like radiation around the world.
Sweet Jesus. But isn't the Federal Reserve supposed to maintain a stable currency? And a stable currency means little to no inflation.
Sure.
But isn't the Federal Reserve actually targeting an inflation rate of 4 to 6%? They call this the reflation trade. It is supposed to make all asset values go up. It seems as if only financial assets might increase, but even then there is no guarantee.
Sure.
But house prices can't increase without jobs. And these jobs must have good wages so that the borrower can repay his mortgage. This money printing or monetizing the debt won't do a damn thing for home prices, will it?
Not one damn thing.
But it won't have any effect upon jobs, will it?
No.
And no effect on salaries either.
No.
Good Lord.
Actually, we are likely to have huge waves of inflation and stagnant or declining wages. Our gross wages have really decreased from last year, and our real, inflation-adjusted wages are in the process of being crushed. A prominent Keynesian economist actually said, late last week, that it would be good for employment if wages actually decreased 5 to 7%. How would America like wages to fall 7% and we have 4 to 6% inflation on top of that? Talk about redistribution of wealth. This is known as hyperstagflation. It is terrible. Think Germany before World War II. All we can do then is hope for change.
Didn't President Nixon implement wage and price controls in the early 70s when inflation reached 3%?
Sure.
Won't that inflation wipe out many Americans who are retired or living on a fixed income?
Sure.
My God, I need to buy more bread today. Did we elect these assholes?
No.
But Bernanke told us there is no inflation. Did he lie?
You betcha he did. Just like every politician and central banker who says that our core rate of inflation is 1%. The core rate of inflation does not in any way reflect real inflation. Even the CPIU does not reflect the real inflation experience of every American. Central bankers and politicians lie, and they know it. I have reviewed the change in the prices of 20 commodities from October 2009 until October 2010. The smallest increase was 14% and the largest increase was 80%. And these prices are just now working their way through the producer's cycle. The huge price inflation wave is coming, and part of it is already here in many things you buy at the grocery store, and at the fuel pump, and in your utility bills. Other than housing costs, these costs make up a huge portion of the average family's budget. But just wait until spring.
Why? What happens in the spring?
Many producers hedged their costs just like Southwest Airlines did with their fuel costs. That is why Southwest prices stayed so low for so long during the last big increase in oil prices. But, eventually, these hedges wear off, and the costs must be passed on to the consumers. This will pick up a full head of steam in the early spring.
Can we unelect Bernanke?
No. He can serve out his term. Even the president can't really fire him. Yet, this year, the Congress actually gave control of the economy to Bernanke and Timmy Geithner, Secretary of the Treasury. The Congress actually gave up control to two unelected individuals. The Congress should be ashamed. I wonder if we can get 534 other congressmen and senators to stand next to Charlie Rangel when he is censured.
Hooper, you scare me. I need a drink.
It's last call, Bandit.
Well then, make it a double. To go. See you tomorrow, Hoop.